series. Started off with Moses, to Aaron, to Miriam, Abraham. Yeah, I might miss. Okay, Abraham's first. Okay, and even looking at Joshua as a prophet, not just a warrior leader. So I always looked at him in that manner, and coming through Joshua, reading all the conquests and how God would instruct. He instructed and says what's going to happen, and it happened. And he even made the prophecy that if anybody tries to rebuild Jericho, that they lose the first son and the last. And then in 1 Kings, it was fulfilled. And by the word of the prophet, it said Joshua was a prophet. I never thought of it like that until we started looking at all these things from this angle. And then we got into Judges. We started out Judges wrapping up what happened in Joshua, kind of a summarization, first part of Judges. And then it goes to Deborah and Barak. Now she was a prophetess. We kind of looked at the book of Judges. It's in the Nevi'im and thought, posed the question, why is the book of Judges in the Nevi'im? Well, it turns out some of these people were prophets. So I guess that's why they stuck them there. So we then looked at Gideon last week. I always thought him as just being a kind of a warrior leader, but he behaved prophetically also. God told him what to do. He told us what's going to happen, and this is what we're going to do, and this is what's going to happen, and it happened. Mm-hmm. So anytime you have someone that says this is what's going to happen, and it happens, that's a prophet, right? Okay, so we looked at Gideon last week. Now we're going to kind of wrap up Judges this week. And next week we're going to start on 1 Samuel, and we're going to have a guest speaker going to come in and do that for us. We wanted to teach on it. So you'll have to wait next week and see who that is. And as we zoom through this, I thought, I think I missed somebody here. Because, today when we say, hey, I got a word for you, or God gave me a word for you. And if somebody brings you a word, and then it comes to pass, they're operating in the gift of prophecy. Well, turns out there's somebody who zoomed right past. His name was Ehud, and he had a word for the king. And it's one of the cute little stories in Judges in the Bible. This Ehud was a guy that was left-handed. We read one other time where there were some soldiers that were left-handed and could hit a gnat's eye at 100 yards with a stone, The Bible kind of said something like that. But this guy was left-handed. And see, even today, when someone approaches us, we reach out with our right hand to shake hands, because back in the day they carried swords. You reached out with your right hand to shake somebody's hand and show I'm coming in peace. It's because you weren't reaching right-handed for your sword to pull it out. That's where the handshake came from, okay? But Ehud is left-handed, so he can reach out with his right hand and shake your hand and do something with his left hand, okay? So God tells him, after it says, in verse 12 of chapter 3 of Judges, and the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord. And the Lord strengthened Eglon, the king of Moab, against the Israelites, and he was constantly harassing them and everything. Finally, the children cried out, and it says, when they cried out in verse 13, the Lord raised up a deliverer for them, Ehud, the son of Gera, the Benjamite, a left-handed man. By him, the children of Israel sent tribute to Eglon, king of Moab. Now, Ehud made himself a dagger, a double-edged sword, the length of a cubit, a short one. A cubit's from your elbow to the tip of your middle finger. An 18-inch sword. That's not a very big sword, right? But it was double-edged. What's another word? What do we describe our Bible with? Is what? It's the sword, right? It's the word. So Ehud was taking him a word and going to give him a word. A double-edged sword. And he fashioned it down inside his right thigh, out of sight. He hit it. So he goes and gives the tribute to Eglon and says he turned back from the stone images at Gilgal. That's where the ones that Joshua put in place. It was actually the altar. That's what that's referring to. So he turned back, verse 19, but he himself turned back from the stone images that were at Gilgal and sent out a secret message. "Are you okay? Here comes the word. I'm going to give you a word, king." So Ehud came to him. Now he was sitting upstairs in his cool private chamber. And Ehud said, "I have a message from God for you." So he rose from his seat, and Ehud reached with his left hand and took the dagger from his right thigh and thrust it into his belly. It says, even the hilt went in after the blade, and the fat closed over the blade. This was a big guy. And his entrails came out. And Ehud went through the back, went out the back door. And you go and read, it's pretty embarrassing, because when he came to the king, I've got a word for it. He said, "Be quiet." He told all his underlings to leave, lock the door. So to me, it's one of the cute stories of the Bible about Ehud giving the king a word.
We don't call it cute when there's people dying.
It was in this case. It was a bad man, right? Big bad man, and freed them up. And it said the land was at rest for 80 years after this happened. 80 years. Yeah. Verse 30. So Moab was subdued that day under the hand of Israel, and the land had rest for 80 years. After, yeah, twice as much as everybody else. So then we go past, we went through Deborah. Now we're going to go to Judges 11. And this is probably one of the saddest stories in the Bible. It's the story about Jephthah. It's a surprise, Myra. He's mentioned, well, just be patient. I'm sorry. I can't help but make a little fun. Judges 11. Now Jephthah, the Gileadite, was a mighty man of valor, but he was the son of a harlot. And Gilead begot Jephthah. Gilead's wife bore sons. And when his wife's sons grew up, they drove Jephthah out and said to him, "You shall have no inheritance in our father's house, for you are the son of another woman." And Jephthah fled from his brothers and dwelt in the land of Tob. And worthless men banded together with Jephthah and went out raiding with him. Doesn't say who he's raiding on. I hope it was on the enemy. But it came to pass after a time that the people of Ammon made war against Israel. And so it was when the people of Ammon made war against Israel that the elders of Gilead went to get Jephthah from the land of Tob. And they said to Jephthah, "Come and be our commander, that we may fight against the people of Ammon." So Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, "Did you not hate me and expel me from my father's house? Why have you come to me now when you're in distress?" And the elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, "That is why we have turned against you now. Turned again to you now, that you may go with us and fight against the people of Ammon and be our head over all our inhabitants of Gilead." So here's this young man. He's known as being a good warrior. And these folks that gave him the boot, all of a sudden now they want it back. And we find ourselves in that kind of situation sometimes at work, or you face some employment or some part of your life where you get the boot, but all of a sudden they realize they made a mistake and they want you back all of a sudden. Have any of y'all ever experienced that? Where you got to turn around? When they realize that you had the talents that they overlooked, and now, you're gone, all of a sudden they realize, whoa, things are falling flat here.
They didn't want me back.
My brother used to, well, he still is, very talented, able to do all kinds of things. And he went into work for a company that built trusses for homes and buildings. And through his ingenuity, he just basically revamped the whole way the business operated. Changed things, tweaked things, just doing his job and giving advice here and there, totally revamped and made things a lot more economical and logical and, what's the word I want to say, more coordinated. And finally when he left, people that he worked with said when he left, the place fell flat on its face. And they actually tried to get him back, but he moved from one part of the state to another. And they didn't realize how much, his influence was on the situation. Well, that's what this is right here. And so they bring Jephthah back. And verse 10, and the elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, the Lord will be a witness between us if we do not do according to your words. And Jephthah went and the elders of Gilead, with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him head and commander over them. See, he went from the least to the most. He went from the bottom to the top. See, that's what God can do with us at the right time, at the right point, at the right opportunity. We can be a little know-nothing out here, pushed aside, put on the sidelines, sitting on the bench, and all of a sudden he brings us on the field. Can you see the possibilities? God can do this with this man. He can do it with us too, right? Now Jephthah sent messengers to the king of the people of Ammon, saying, what do you have against me, that you have come to fight against me in my land? He just said to the king, why are you all after us? And the king of the people of Ammon answered the messengers of Jephthah, because Israel took away my land when they came up out of Egypt, from the Arnon as far as the Jabbok, and to the Jordan. Now therefore restore those lands peacefully. So Jephthah again sent messengers to the king of the people of Ammon and said to him, thus says Jephthah, Israel did not take away the land of Moab, nor the land of the people of Ammon. When Israel came up from Egypt, they walked through the wilderness as far as the Red Sea and came to Kadesh. And Israel sent messengers to the king of Edom, saying, please let us pass through your land. The king of Edom would not heed. And in like manner, they sent to the king of Moab, but he would not consent. So Israel remained at Kadesh. And they went along through the wilderness and bypassed the land of Edom and the land of Moab. They had to go around it. Came to the east side of the land of Moab and camped on the other side of Arnon. But they did not enter the border of Moab, for the Arnon was the border of Moab. And Israel sent messengers to Shihon, king of the Amorites, king of the Heshbon. And Israel said to him, please let us pass through your land into our place. But Shihon did not trust Israel to pass through his territory. So Shihon gathered all his people together and camped at Jahaz and fought against Israel. And the Lord God of Israel delivered Shihon and all his people into the hand of Israel, and they defeated them. Thus Israel gained possession of all the land of the Amorites who inhabited that country. They took possession of all the territory of the Amorites, from the Arnon to the Jabbok, and from the wilderness to the Jordan. And now the Lord God of Israel has dispossessed the Amorites from before his people Israel. Should you then possess it? Will you not possess whatever Shemosh your God gives you to possess? So whatever the Lord our God takes possession of before us, we will possess. And now, are you any better than Balak the son of Zippor, king of Moab? Did he ever strive against Israel? Did he ever fight against them? Israel dwelt in Heshbon and its villages, in Arior and in its villages, and in all the cities along the banks of the Arnon for 300 years. Why did you not recover them within that time? Therefore, I have not sinned against you, but you wronged me by fighting against me. May the Lord, the judge, render judgment this day between the children of Israel and the people of Ammon. However, the king of the people of Ammon did not heed the words which Jephthah sent him. He's just giving him a history lesson. You know, you people, you Amorites, you Moabites, who are our kinfolk, we told you God's sending us here, and you wouldn't let us come through your land. And then you attack us, and you lose your land, and here it is 300 years later, and you want it back? That'd be like the 300, or down at the Alamo. You know, the Mexicans said, give us your can, and they said, come get it, come take it. Moan Labe, come take it. That's what Jephthah's saying. Okay, you want it? Come get it and see if your God Shemash will give it to you. He's kind of thumbing his nose at him. Come get it. We didn't take it from you. You gave it up because you attacked us. Our kin people, you attacked us. And you lost it. It's kind of like the 6-Day War. When the Arabs attacked Israel and once again got their buttocks handed to them, and they lost all that land, what they call the West Bank. Now they want it back. Tough cookies. It's ours now. We're not giving it up. And Israel better never give any more land up. They made a mistake by giving Gaza back to the Palestinians. Should have never given that up. It's ours, it's theirs now, and God's not going to let them give up any more. Now that's what got Benjamin Netanyahu in trouble and lost elections because he gave up some land. And I heard that story how a Christian prophet went to him and said, look, this is what happened, don't do it again, and God will raise you up again, and he did. So I don't know what's going to happen now, you know, in this situation. You know, they may try to establish the government. I have a feeling it's going to unravel pretty quick because it's extreme left and extreme right trying to come together for the sole purpose of putting him out. That's their goal. It's not to establish a righteous government. It's just to keep Netanyahu out. I don't think it'll unravel. It's going to fall apart because once they accomplish that little intermediate goal, they're going to go at each other's throats again.
Yeah.
So we'll see how God's hand is upon that situation. So now we're going to go on to Jephthah. Verse 29. Then the Spirit of the Lord came upon Jephthah, and he passed through Gilead and Manasseh, and passed through Mizpah of Gilead. And from Mizpah of Gilead he advanced toward the people of Ammon. He said, the Spirit of the Lord. Where do we read where the Spirit of the Lord came on somebody else? Last week? Gideon, right? That means all of a sudden these Old Testament folks are Spirit-filled. What happens when you get Spirit-filled?
Be mighty.
And Jephthah made a vow to the Lord. Here's where it gets sad. And Jephthah made a vow to the Lord and said, if you will indeed deliver the people of Ammon into my hands, then it will be that whatever comes out of the doors of my house to meet me when I return in peace from the people of Ammon shall surely be the Lord's, and I will offer it up as a burnt offering. Now, why did he do that? He didn't have to do that. What was he thinking? Why was he thinking this? Was this something that he just did frivolously? Did he really think about it seriously? I don't know. Was it something because of the mindset of the people of that time that they would make these kind of vows? I don't know, but it turns real. We'll wait a minute. So Jephthah advanced toward the people of Ammon to fight against them, and the Lord delivered them into his hands, and he defeated them from Aor as far as Minnith, 20 cities, and to Abel Keramim with a very great slaughter. Thus the people of Ammon were subdued before the children of Israel. Spirit-filled man went out and whooped them.
Well,
See,
the thing that I see is the word if in verse 30. If. You know, it's
where
not.
is this? What?
Verse 30 told God, made a vow to God, and said, if you will do this.
If you will indeed deliver the people of Ammon into my hands.
So it's like if, not as if he's not totally sure.
Well,
bargain.
It's a bargain, yeah, he's kind of bargaining with the Lord,
The
yeah,
war hadn't happened yet, so
No,
he
it
didn't
hadn't
know
happened.
if it would or not.
yeah. He didn't know, but he thought, if you'll do this, God, then I'll do this. And God, he got the people in his hands, he whooped Ammon. But in verse 34, when Jephthah came to his house at Mizpah, there was his daughter coming out to meet him with timbrels and dancing, and she was his only child. That's who came out the door when he first got home. His daughter. And it came to pass when he saw her that he tore his clothes and said, Alas, my daughter, you have brought me very low. You are among those who trouble me, for I have given my word to the Lord, and I cannot go back on it.
Seems like she didn't do it.
I know she didn't, but she's the first thing that came dancing out the door.
I know, but
He
she's
blamed
blaming
her.
him. He's blaming her.
He blamed her.
Well, he's saying how he's feeling, but he knows he's the one that's responsible. He knows.
But he said, "You have brought me very low. You are those who trouble me."
You trouble me. Yes.
Well, yeah. What? Because she's the one that came out the door instead of a frog or a dog or a cat. I mean, most of the time you think your dog will be the first thing to come out and greet you, not your daughter. I don't know. He made his mistake.
No, that's his male ego.
Oh.
Blaming it on.
And now here we go.
Uh-oh.
Just had to go there.
Uh-oh.
Well, here's my point. You say, and he winds up having to sacrifice his daughter.
That's not gonna happen. If you go back to the beginning, back there in chapter 9, it says there, he said that, if you bring me home again to fight against the children of Ammon, and the Lord deliver them before me, shall I be your head, or another my leader. So
Right.
he's already made the same kind of vow. If you,
Well, he was making an agreement with them,
yeah, I know.
coming
but
into a contract.
But he
contractual
still
agreement.
said, "Are you going to make me your head if the Lord?" He's saying, "If the Lord deliver them."
Yeah.
So he's speaking of God being the activating the consequential victory of the Lord.
Mhm.
So here he's not going to sacrifice his daughter. It's more of consecration. The daughter's
No, she was put to death.
she's put to death.
Yeah.
Where's that?
Where's that?
Yeah. Well, if I could add something.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in there. He does go through with it. Two things that I think of when I read this story. One is when you want to discern somebody, maybe what's going on with them, you need to think about their belief system. And he had been so badly influenced by the foreign countries who believed in human sacrifice
Mm-hmm.
that he would spit out those words so
Flippantly.
cavalier, yeah, and just like, maybe it'll be a servant or whatever, it was like he didn't even think about it, he just threw that out there. But the world around them, they kept going into these cycles of sin in the world and idolatry and everything, and under idolatry you sacrifice babies and things like that, so he's sacrificing his child just like what's going on in the world right now. But
In verse 38 it says, so he said, well, no, back up here a little bit. Okay, verse 36. So she said to him, my father, if you have given your word to the Lord, do to me according to what has gone out of your mouth, because the Lord has avenged you of your enemies, the people of Ammon. And she said to her father, let this thing be done for me. Let me alone for 2 months, that I may go and wander on the mountains and bewail my virginity, my friends and I. So he said, go. And he sent her away for 2 months, and she went with her friends and bewailed her virginity on the mountains. And it was so at the end of 2 months that she returned to her father, and he carried out his vow with which she had vowed. She knew no man. And it became a custom in Israel that the daughters of Israel went 4 days each year to lament the daughter of Jephthah, the Gileadite. So, once again, Myra was questioning, and I already mentioned to her, but she doesn't remember.
So
Why would we be talking this Jephthah as a prophet? He wasn't, but guess what? What he needed was a prophet. He needed one. He needed one like Barak named Deborah with anointing in that gift. He needed a prophet to guide him and help him fight. See, in these fights we get into, even today, the battles that we get into, if the body of Christ does not have a prophet who can speak and who's a seer, who can give guidance and direction to the apostle and the pastor and the other four gifts, if that gift is not present, you're going to make mistakes like Jephthah did.
Yeah.
You'll make horrible mistakes
Oh,
if you don't have that gift present in the fivefold. That's the way that a lot of churches operate today. They're making horrible mistakes
So,
because they're not allowing the prophetic gift to function.
Mhm.
That's what this is an example of.
That's good.
Hmm?
So in verse 31, he said, I will offer it up as a burnt offering. So that means he killed her?
Yes, he killed her. He said he carried out the vow down here in verse 39.
You know what I think, though? The story could have been written a little, if he had made a choice and said, God, I can't do what I found, let it be on me instead. Take me instead. I cannot do this thing. Then the story would have been written differently. And she could have been saved. Maybe he would have died. Maybe the Lord would have said,
Maybe he had mercy.
yes. Maybe the Lord would have had mercy on him and said, on both of them, and said, okay,
Yeah,
you don't have to fulfill it.
I don't see why. When I read it, I thought, why did he just
It's just-
ask God?
It was the influence of idolatry.
Yeah.
About sacrificing,
Yeah.
burnt offerings. If he hadn't added that few words, a burnt offering, if he had just said, it will be yours,
Yeah.
it would have been fine.
Yeah.
He
That's
added
right.
a burnt offering.
Because some people dedicated, like Samuel,
Yeah.
to the Lord, and he lived in the temple. So that would have been a whole lot better.
That's a
A
great
whole lot
point.
better. Yeah,
John.
to me, it's just one of the. When, first time I ever read this, I almost cried. But how sad
It
could
is
this
sad.
be? You know,
And then what?
I mean, it's one of the saddest
Tell me
stories.
what 4 days it was.
I don't know how one could do such a thing.
Pardon? I can't hear.
I don't know
people
how
talking.
one could do such a thing.
Did it. It's all there. That's what makes the Bible the truth, because it's all there, the good, bad, and the ugly. It's all there. It's all there.
So we learn.
You're right. Story. What I take away from that story is, you better have a prophet in the house, so you don't make stupid stuff, do stupid things. Uh huh.
I heard you say you better have a problem now.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I said it. I
What?
always said it. When I go out and do deliverance, I used to call them, I want the touchy-feelies there. Because all I know is how to hit something with a sledgehammer. But if the touchy-feely prophetic people are there, they can bring something out so you know where to direct the hammer. Okay, that I won't know, because I just want to swing the hammer. Okay? So that's why when you're doing ministry, you need people, when we did healing rooms, if something's an injury, I like much rather pray for something that's an injury, you just fell and hurt yourself, or you did something, I'd rather pray for that than I would for somebody that's got some trauma they experienced as a child, now as an adult, that's manifesting as some type of illness, and you gotta go root out the trauma that happened to them when they're 5 years old, remove the damage from that to free them from the disease that's manifesting now. And that takes a lot of digging and rooting out, to get down to that. Or God can whisper something in your ear and say, how about this? And you ask him, and all of a sudden it brings up, and you hit it with a hammer, and poof. Okay? So that's why you need the touchy-feelies around. Touchy-feelies. Yeah. Come with me. I need your help.
Oh Lord, I had enough bubbles today if you would have heard this story.
Now the truth is bubbling out. Okay, now we're going to go to Judges 13. This is the beginning. We're just going to talk about the beginning of the story of Samson.
That's a tragic one too.
Yeah, there's a little bit of divine reversal at the end. But yeah, it's the whole book of Judges is just, you know, a lot of it's just fouled up. It's just fouled up. You know, after Gideon, that was the last time they had 40 years of peace. From all the way to the end, from there to the end of the book of Judges, it's just, you know, up and down, up and down, up and down, mostly. But it doesn't ever say anything about 40 years of peace anymore. It ends with Gideon. But the children of Israel still keep messing up. Verse 1 of chapter 13, again the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them in the hand of the Philistines for 40 years. How many times have we heard 40 years?
A lot.
Over and over and over again, 40, 40, 40, all through the Bible, 40, right? One time 80, but that's double 40. Double dose of 40. I mean, if you did a word search of 40, I bet it's just, I mean, there's probably over 100 times mentioned in the Bible. And, big part of the story of John Hendricks, which I told, 40 years and 40, 40, 40. Anyway, in verse 2, now there was a certain man from Zorah of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and had no children. And the angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said to her, indeed now you are barren and have borne no children, but you shall conceive and bear a son. Now therefore please be careful not to drink wine or similar drink, and not eat anything unclean. For behold, you shall conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come upon his head, for the child shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. So the woman came and told her husband, saying, the man of God came to me, and his countenance was like the countenance of the angel of God, very awesome. But I did not ask him where he was from, and he did not tell me his name. And he said to me, behold, you shall conceive and bear a son. Now drink no wine or similar drink, nor eat anything unclean, for the child shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb to the day of his death. And Manoah prayed to the Lord and said, O my Lord, please let the man of God whom you sent come to us again and teach us what we shall do for the child who will be born. And God listened to the voice of Manoah. And the angel of God came to the woman again as she was sitting in the field, but Manoah, her husband, was not with her. And the woman ran in haste and told her husband and said to him, look, the man who came to me the other day has just now appeared to me. So Manoah rose and followed his wife, and he came to the man. He said to him, are you the man who spoke to this woman? And he said, I am. Manoah